Jyoti, I want to bring up again on your article that you wrote, because again, as I mentioned, it's a game changer. It still resonates today. And in your article, you talk about recommendations around the data warehouse and BI programs. And one major point you discussed was shareholder participation, which I feel is also sometimes a miss for organizations, especially when projects are led specifically by IT. Can you talk about the value of the stakeholder participation within or starting these types of initiatives or programs?
Absolutely. That's a great question, by the way, because we often see resistance from stakeholders. This is where I would like to quote from my article directly, that who is the stakeholder? So in data warehouse programs, this role will depend on the identity of the end user for the data being delivered. Is it reporting need, or is it needed by another application team or production support team going to be responsible for this team, for this data? Depending on the purpose and usage of the data, the product owner should be identified. This should be someone who can be involved early on in the life cycle to understand the requirements and needs. I think this is where we often miss having a product owner. We think of a product owner as someone who is representative of a business. Very good. But when you think of data programs, who is this business for you? Business could be a downstream application. When we do data migration or data integration programs, we're usually doing that in order for the analytical team to run their queries. So it's best suited that we have someone from there participate. That's our main stakeholder. Or sometimes we are building the databases, we are migrating the databases so that the operation teams can run their business as usual. Sometimes we're just optimizing the databases. That happens. We've migrated DB2 to Netezza to Teradata multiple times. So in that case, who's our stakeholder? There's nobody from business. It's actually operation teams, because they need to understand the nuances of what we're doing, what impact of this migration is going to be on their existing queries, existing programs, existing BAU. So it's not that hard to reach out to them and actually say, hey, do you guys want to participate? And we've done this beautifully in many programs where they were invited right in the beginning, where we were sharing with them the whole plan. Now they were able to see when we were planning to migrate, when we were trying to do a proof of concepts, what kind of tables would be loaded, what kind of query system would happen. We even shared the timings with them. It got very curious that they started coming in. It was not easy. We didn't ask them for anything. We just asked them for feedback. We said, if you could come for our demos, if you could just look at what we're doing and just provide us some feedback, say, it's working, you think it's going to break the system, you think this would not run very well with your application, existing system might have a problem. So we started bringing them in. Another stakeholder identification. A lot of times in a lot of programs, we always think of UAT in the end, 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line, depending on the length of the program. But what happens when you bring the UAT testers, business guys, in that sense, up front? Because you're supposed to be doing in-sprint testing, you're supposed to be doing your unit testing, you're supposed to be doing SIT as early as possible. So what if the users are actually looking at acceptance tests? What happens if you start building those acceptance tests in your stories and features? There are many ways of bringing the stakeholders in upfront to engage them. And that way they can see that they're in the process and they're not waiting for 6 months down the line to start testing something. I do want to give a very favorite example of mine. It was around a data migration program that we were trying to do. We were migrating from DB2 to Netezza. And we had some requirements which were captured. And the requirements were plain and simple. We didn't have a lot of logic change. They were just a little bit over there. So for example, a policy start date was the person's birth date. The policy end date was defaulted to 31st December 99999. Now, we were running this program. We were just migrating data. We were just defaulting the dates. And we invited the architect. We invited the person who was going to be responsible for production, maintenance. And we said, hey, do you guys want to see the demo? Because we could run some queries and just show you how the data is looking. We also invited the BI team. That was easy because I was in charge of that. But we invited the developer from the BI team who was responsible for creating the beautiful dashboards in future, which was 2 months down the line. It was so funny until date. I don't know how this happened, but it was really funny when the developer looks at it, the BI guy, and he goes, I'm observing that your policy end dates are different. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, no, no, no. I thought the policy end dates are supposed to be same for all. And we all sat there looking at each other like, what does he mean? So figured out in about 10 minutes that instead of policy end date being defaulted to 31st 12/9/99, the coder had defaulted the policy begin date to 31st 12/9/99. So it got swapped. So policy end date was everybody's birthday, so it was different, and start date was everybody's same. Now, running a big program, nobody's bothered. Yes, the queries are running, they're working, system is not crashing, the SQL is running fine. But the BI analysis guy sits there going, this is now how it is supposed to look like. He saved us a major embarrassment and a major rework, which would have been very difficult down the line. So I was very thankful that the guy was there. And this is what happens when you have active stakeholder participation.
Yeah, agreed. And I love you use that example, right? And you talk about, too, the stakeholder participation is more of a team sport, right? You succeed with the team, everybody participating. Right?
Yes.
And as you use in your example, hey, if you didn't have them come in and highlight that, that would have been a big hit later on. So again, that participation stay very critical. And for the folks that are watching this vlog, please make sure you check below. I put a link on Jyoti's article. Again, game changer, still resonates today. Awesome job on that, Jyoti.